I'm awake. I'm awake.
What's up, guys? I'm Griffin. I'm just some dude that plays video games, and today I'm talking World of Warcraft. We're in Phase 2 now. We've been in Phase 2 for a couple of weeks, so I'm a little bit late to the draw, but I suppose better late than never, to talk about the updated pre-BiS for Resto Druids in particular. So I pulled up the previous Phase 1 Resto Druid pre-raid best in slot items. I went over these in my Phase 1 raid healing guide, so if you want to check that out, you'll find that probably linked at the end. But with Phase 2, we have not only World PvP and Battlegrounds available, as well as some the addition of some world bosses, but we also get Dire Maul, which has a lot of new gear for all different classes and specs, and gives us a few new options for pre-raid best in slot gear. Some of which is a little bit easier to attain from Dire Maul than from where some of these other pieces are sourced. So yeah, I'm just gonna go slot by slot. All right, so let's just start with the helmet slot. From Dire Maul North, Cho Rush the Observer, who accompanies the final boss of the dungeon, can drop the Insightful Hood, which has a variety of stats, all of which that we desire: intellect, spirit, and stamina. +1 to critical strike with spells, and 33 healing. Now the Cassandra's Grace that we had in Phase 1 pre-BiS has 44 healing, and while plus healing is still the stat that I would prioritize the most when gearing up for raid, you have to kind of consider what we're trading in this exchange. So for the loss of 11 plus healing power, we get +1 critical strike, +15 intellect, and +5 stamina, and also plus might over 90 armor. And I think, in my opinion, I think that's definitely a worthy trade. I would definitely go for the Insightful Hood. So it'll save you a little bit of money when you're gearing yourself up, since that's a free drop. Why doesn't it show? That's crazy. Okay, it just takes away my ponytail when I put it on, apparently. So we won't show it. So Insightful Hood is what I would go with. Another thing we gain access to with the addition of Dire Maul is the Libram enchants that you can put on your helmet and leggings slot. So for casters and healers, you're going to be after the Arcanum of Focus. You can look up, well actually I can probably open that up on a side tab, what all that requires. There's a variety of items you have to turn in along with the Libram of Focus itself, but it'll add +8 healing to your helmet and leggings slot. Let's see here. Yeah, you'll require the Libram itself, a singular pristine black diamond, 4 large brilliant shards, and 2 skins of shadow, which are dropped in the Skullman's dungeon. They are BOP, so you'll have to actually roll need on them, and there's also a couple of places throughout the dungeon that you can loot them from the floor. So you have to pick up 2 of those for your helmet and legging slots. Necklace slot. Unfortunately, there's no other option that becomes available that's anywhere close to as good as the animated chain necklace outside of raid, so that's what you're going to continue rocking. Whoops, I didn't mean to unequip it though. So that's what you're going to have to farm out. It's still best in slot for the first 2 phases as far as pre-raid items go, and actually even post-raid items, because no raid in the right mind is going to give you the Choker of the Firelord for a single point upgrade to your healing and a better stat spread. Yeah, that's not happening. So just get the animated chain necklace. Living Shoulders. The Mantle of Lost Hope now becomes available from Lord Rockor. I think they added that Phase 2 to his drop table, because I don't think that was available Phase 1, although it does say P1 in the icon. It's still Living Shoulders, I think, is your best option there, which is I think pretty cheap mats wise, so yeah, just get that crafted by a leather worker. As far as cape slot goes, you can, if you do PvP, get some other options from the Battlegrounds reputations. I personally don't really F with PvP. So I usually just go with whatever drops from dungeons or whatever I'm able to get crafted. So there's really not like incredible options that there's really nothing better than the Archivist if you're able to get the plus healing affix on it, but there's some decent enough alternatives. Now again, I always prioritize plus healing, so like the example here with the plus critical strike is useful, and the reason why we like crit at all is because it synergizes with Nature's Grace. So every time we crit with one of our heals, the next heal is gonna cast faster by 0.5 seconds. So crit is good and it synergizes with our build, but we still just want to maximize our plus healing to be as efficient as possible. So truly, like, none of these other options are going to be as good as the Archivist Cape, but if I had my pick, I'd probably just go like Spire Casters or something with some decent stat spread on it, and the plus healing over things like plus mana, MP5, or the plus critical strike, for example. Alright, moving on. Robes of the Exalted will still remain your best in slot for pre-raid items. But the Forest Embrace, which you can get from the Sunken Temple Druid quest, is a decent alternative. It's, you know, only 13 points in plus healing behind the Robes of Exalted. A little bit more armor, roughly same stats. But yeah, Robes of the Exalted still remains your best option there. As far as risks go, if you were looking strictly for like dungeon drops, you would have equipped the Bleak Howler Arm Guards before, which comes from Blackrock Spire. But from the final boss in Dire Maul North, you can get the Bracers of Prosperity, or from the final boss of West, you can get Bracers of Mending. They're both pretty similar in stats. But the Bracers of Prosperity is a great option if you're looking for a dungeon drop item. Whereas the Flare Core Wraps, which are technically the best option for this slot, are a crafted item and will probably be fairly expensive to get crafted. So yeah, technically the Flare Core Wraps will be your best option, but with the addition of Dire Maul, the Bracers of Prosperity are a great second choice. Hammer of Grace still going to be your best option really for pre-raid weapon options. There are some new stabs that are pretty nice. However, we gain access to a great offhand from Dire Maul North, which again drops from the final boss, that being the brightly glowing stone. And so that's, you know, fairly easy to attain, a little bit higher in healing power than the previous option we had, while not having as much stats. Again, we still prioritize that plus healing, so with 37 healing from the offhand and the 31 healing from your main hand, that combination still outweighs a lot of your two-handed options. But the Redemption's a great choice. Oh wait, I don't think that's available till phase 5. I think it's the same with the shoulders that I saw from Rockcore. I don't think that's actually added yet. Could be wrong. Wasn't there yeah, there was a staff from the Dire Maul North tribute chest, but yeah, again, it has a lot less plus healing, and the +1 crit strike and the added stats are not going to outweigh that loss there. So yeah, just stick with the hammer and the brightly glowing stone as your main hand offhand combination. As far as gloves go, nothing really becomes available that's better than the Hands of the Exalted Herald, but Gloves of Restoration are a great alternative. Actually, like pretty much the same, really, when you look at them. It's like a teeny bit less stats, less desirable stats, I suppose. You really want Int and Spirit before Stamina, and a teeny bit more healing. But yeah, so technically the Hands of the Exalted Herald still better, but Gloves of Restoration are just as good. So I'd be happy with either personally. As far as belt goes, the Corehound belt recipe will become available in Phase 2, which is an upgrade from your Sash of Mercy. So you're replacing one expensive BOE with an expensive crafted item. So that's kind of cool. And it's not a huge upgrade, really, but I don't know. If you have the money, you might as well go for it. I would definitely take the intellect and the bump in healing power over the stats the Sash of Mercy has to offer. But if you don't have the money, the Whipvine Cord from Dire Maul East is actually a really good alternative option. I mean, it doesn't have nearly as much plus healing, but it has all the stats on it that you want, really. So that's a great choice. Eye Stalker Cord from West is also, about the same as far as like plus healing power goes. I think I would rather have the MP5 from the Whipvine versus the stamina and a little bit of intellect, a little bit higher intellect from the Eye Stalk Cord. So Whipvine Cord is probably going to be your best dungeon option or dropped option for your belt slot. Designer's Pantaloons can get replaced with the Padres trousers. Really, in my mind, these are about equivalent. I know the Padres trousers are ranked a little bit higher, but you're kind of trading out some, like, it's just a weird trade of stats in my head. You get 2 more plus healing. You're dropping 18 spirit, 8 intellect, and gaining 13 intellect. Sorry, I can't speak. You're dropping 18 spirit, 8 stamina to gain 13 intellect, and 6 MP5. So it's like, I don't know. In my mind, they're roughly equivalent, but I don't know. Padres trousers are great as well. So either way, I guess Padres trousers, since they're rigged higher, is what I'll put there for now. As far as boots go, the Verdant foot pads still have the highest plus healing, but there's a couple of new options that come from the Dire Maul wings that are pretty good alternatives if you can't get the Verdant foot pads or Faith Healer's boots to drop. So Boots of the Moon and the Water Spout boots both have around the same plus healing, but Boots of the Full Moon have better stats. The only thing is, not a lot of groups kill Captain Crom Crush. They end up skipping him using the Ogre disguise or whatever, the Ogre suit. So yeah, it's like you can't always get a group to kill the boss that will drop those for you. But if you can get those to drop, those are pretty nice. Water Spout boots come from East, and that's a boss that you have to kill pretty much every run that you do. But still, Verdant foot pads and Faith Healer's boots will rank a little bit higher. For Drink Seal, these ring slots, again, really don't get replaced. There's nothing that becomes available that's better or even really equivalent to these two choices, so the ring slots aren't going to change. As far as trinkets go, you will get access to the class books from Dire Maul that will give each class a different trinket, and the one the Druids get happen to be really good for healers, so this could easily replace your Second Wind, or the Briarwood, really. I guess it depends on how much you prioritize the MP5, but the Second Wind on use effect has like a 15-minute cooldown, so that's really not going to do much for you in a raid setting. But also you can get the Mind Tap Talisman from Dire Maul West, which is like a baby version of the Shard of the Scale from Onyxia. So I would probably rank these two as your new best in slot trinkets. Fortunately, the book is pretty easy to get. There will be probably an abundance of them on the auction house. Or you can loot them from the little like book piles or whatever that you find throughout the instance while you're clearing it. The Dusty Tomes, I think they're called. Mind Tap Talisman comes from, I think, a rare spawn or a boss that doesn't always get killed in the Dire Maul West runs. But I think it's like probably a better option than your Second Wind. I would do these two as your two best in slot trinkets. Didn't put the enchant. Don't forget that you can also put the Arcanum of Focus enchant on your pants. Beyond that, I didn't really mention the Lay of the Life Giver. I know I mentioned earlier that I really don't do PvP, so items that you could purchase from Rep or from Ranks, by example, like the Grand Marshal's items or whatever, or from like Warsong Gulch or whatever, those faction reps, I would never personally acquire those, but the Lay of the Life Giver comes from the Alterac Valley rep, and Alterac Valley is almost like a hybrid PvP PvE thing. Especially when it first comes out, the most efficient way to get AV rep is for both sides to just Zerg the last boss, and whoever kills them faster gets the higher rep, but the rounds are over really quickly. So you just like spam it. The queues are really short. You just go, round after round after round, and you build up your rep pretty quickly that way. And since you're just charging with your group of allies to the last boss, which is an NPC, it's not even like you're really PvPing at all. So that's like a battleground that I don't really mind doing as much. And Lay of the Lifegiver is much better than the Brightly Glowing Stone. So if you have the patience to do PvP, or even if you don't have the patience to do PvP, but you wouldn't mind doing an event style instance where you're just charging with a bunch of your Horde or Alliance friends nearby and killing NPCs and like taking over little like stations and towers and stuff, then Lay of the Lifegiver is definitely worth that time investment, because that'll be your best in slot offhand for a while. So yeah, I would say give AV a shot even if you're not a PvPer like me. But beyond that, that pretty much covers all of the new additions for Phase 2. PvP Battlegrounds and Dire Maul certainly added a few interesting options for best in slot and some great alternatives to some of the items that are either expensive to buy or craft, or maybe harder to get dropped from their respective dungeons. So yeah, that about sums it up. I don't want to drone on too long. It's a pretty simple one. Hope you're having fun in raids so far. I really look forward to the next phase of raiding. I'll cover a little bit of what those boss encounters look like as a Resto Druid when we get there, so stay tuned for that when we get to Phase 3. But in the meantime, thanks so much for hanging out, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye now.